Well, I think what we heard from Boris Johnson yesterday in terms of the leaked memo that Sky News has seen is an unusual act of honesty from the Foreign Secretary, because he's merely just stated to the Prime Minister what everyone knows. You can't draw the red lines that the government have drawn in terms of leaving the single market and the customs union and not have a border at Ireland. And if you think about what he said to the Today programme yesterday in terms of comparing it to Camden and Westminster, the one other thing he got right there was Camden and Westminster are in the same single market and don't have any customs borders. So you can't possibly achieve a situation that the government wants to achieve of frictionless, borderless trade on the island of Ireland without staying in the single market and the customs union.
But aren't we reaching a point now where a majority voted in the referendum to leave the European Union, and in a sense that's going to have to take priority over everything else, including the border in Northern Ireland?
Well, we're leaving the European Union, but if we leave the European Union, what we need to do is make sure we have the least worst option when we leave, and the least worst option when we leave is to stay in the single market and the customs union. The government's own leaked analysis shows this. There is nobody on the island of Ireland, whether they're in the north or in the south, that realises that the government can achieve what they want to achieve without having some kind of border. The government should just admit that, and the reason that we're seeing the legal text from the European Union later on today is because the December agreement was a political fudge, but when that gets codified into legal language, the option C that looks as if they're going to put into this legal document is that Ireland will have to stay in the customs union and the single market. It's straightforward.
What comes first for you? What comes first for you, Brexit or the Good Friday Agreement?
Let's be very straight here, okay? This is the big picture. If we stay in the single market and the customs union, we won't have left the EU in any meaningful way. The whole point about trying to get back control of the money...
Norway is not a Norway is not a member of the European Union. Are you saying Norway is a member of the European Union?
No, but it's a rule taker.
Switzerland's a member of the
They
European
are rule
Union.
take. We all know, and you know, Adam, that they are rule takers.
Turkey's a member of the European Union.
Well, Turkey isn't in the single market. Turkey is not in the single market.
So you know,
you're sort of fudging distinctions. Turkey is in the customs union, but it's not in the single market.
All right. So therefore, that's Labour's proposal. So that would be leaving the European Union.
Switzerland and Norway, you know that they accept rules, but they have no influence on them. And actually, what we can do as a country, much bigger economies.
They are not members of the European Union. They're not members of the European Union, are they?
To state my case, what Labour are doing is essentially preventing us as a country, a huge economy, from doing deals with every other country in the world that isn't in the EU. And I think that would defeat the point. That would defeat the point for this country of leaving the EU.
Well, again, Pascal Lamy there saying, actually, most of these countries you want to do deals with, we're already party to deals with through the European Union. I mean, where is
a lot of them weren't.
Where is this great opportunity of new trade deals?
If you talk to people in Canada, if you talk to government in Australia, even in China, people are saying they want to do deals with Britain because they realise the opportunities that the British market gives them. They're saying
they want to do deals with Britain because they trade with Britain.
Yeah, of course they do. I mean, you say that in a dismissive way, but they want to deal with Britain. That's hugely significant.
They are explicitly not saying we see a better deal for Britain in this. They're simply saying we want to go on trading with Britain. What I ask you is where this great opportunity is.
They are saying,
given that we already have trade deals with those countries through the EU that you think is going to be better.
Some of them we don't. So the United States, for example, the whole point of the TTIP negotiation, that collapsed, and that meant that there was no EU deal with the United States. We debated that endlessly for the last 6 or 7 years.
Not telling the public is the reason the TTIP deal with America collapsed was because of mainly chlorified chicken, antibiotic beef and substandard regulations and products. I would rather that the people who are watching this show, their children were playing with toys that were underpinned by the consumer and safety regulations of the European Union than some half-baked trade deal the government is determined to do because they have nothing else on the table. We already do a lot of trade with America, and there's no combination of trade deals in the world that are currently on the table that would make up for even half of what we'd lose when we leave the single market.
Has a fundamentally different view. He thinks that we should stay in the EU forever, as you do. When I go on the show,
I don't have a view. I'm just asking for the facts. Don't ascribe what I think. I'm asking you questions.
I read your column.
No, and the reality is, well, I say that the Conservative Party is not handling this very well at the moment, whether or not you're in favour of leaving. But, you know, the reality is Treasury projections, possible gains from trade, less than 1%, possible losses from leaving the European Union, more than 4%.
So let's talk about projections. Let's look at what happened, the projections ahead of the actual referendum. It's nearly 2 years since the referendum, 2 years this June. and none of the dire predictions, most of the
still in
dire,
the
haven't
European
happened.
Union,
They haven't happened. No, hang on. There was an emergency budget. There was an emergency budget
I'm asking about
in 2016.
Trade. I'm asking about trade.
No, you were talking about projections. You were talking about projections, and I'm dealing with what you said about projections.
No, you're choosing other projections. I'm asking about those specific projections,
Yeah, and I'm saying that,
which have come from a variety of economists saying that the greater increase in trade of leaving the European Union will not substitute for the loss.
And what I'm saying to you is that many similar economists were saying that voting to leave, not leaving, voting to leave would be an economic disaster, which mercifully hasn't happened.
Well, so you make a fuss about nothing.
But we all want to achieve the same thing. Karen Bradley's right. Everyone wants to achieve no border in the island of Ireland. But the only way to achieve that is to be in the single market. And the customs union is perfectly clear. The objectives, as I said before, that the government have set themselves, which is no border, which is what Karen Bradley's standing behind there, is absolutely true. But it cannot be achieved with the red lines of leaving the customs union in the single market.
Now, I want to ask you a question about something which is not being discussed, which is this border in the Irish Sea, so-called.
Of course.
I'm told by a lot of my friends in Northern Ireland that actually there are a lot of people in Northern Ireland who don't really have a problem with that they would be quite happy for Northern Ireland to have a different status from the rest of the United Kingdom. What would you say to that?
It raises two problems, though. Most of the trade that comes out of the island of Ireland lands in the United Kingdom at some point because it's the cheapest and easiest way to get onto mainland Europe. And the other problem you would have is the potential for dumping through the United Kingdom into the European Union through Northern Ireland. So there's a real problem with having that border there. Politically, I think it's incredibly difficult as well. And I don't think the DUP, which are propping up this Conservative government, would allow that to happen. So that can also is an issue that could only be resolved through the customs union.
Karen Bradley, again, really, I don't think that was actually in the agreement with the...
Karen Bradley was very clear in what she said, and she's absolutely right. We do not want a hard border, and nobody does. The EU doesn't want one. The Northern Ireland people on the island of Ireland don't want one, and we don't want one. The main thing, the main issue, and it always boils down to this, is that there is a concerted group of people who want to stay in the EU by whatever means possible. They haven't accepted. I'm not sure where Ian's position is, but a lot of people have not accepted.
You don't think that there is actually agreement between
and
responsible Brexiteers and responsible Remainers that, in the circumstances, they want the best deal for this country?
Of course, we want the best deal,
but
a lot of people.
And you accept that the people you're saying who want to remain, incidentally, who explicitly, most of them, like Anna Soubry, say they accept that we're leaving.
No, a lot of them
they're just
don't.
concerned about the manner in which it happens.
A lot of them don't. A lot of them want a second referendum in order to stay. I don't know what Ian's position is.
The problem the government have,
but a lot of people want to stay.
The problem the government have is they need
Jeremy
to...
Corbyn wants to stay. He does want to stay.
I'm not sure about it. I can't. But
okay.
Tony Blair has openly said, right,
the government are wrapped up in the ideology of this, rather than getting off the ideological bandwagon and do what's in the best interest of the country. And the least worst option is single market and customs union.
We're going to have to leave it there.